2025 has been a big year for WWE, with WWE signing several names to new contracts, including some returning to the company for the first time in many years, some coming to the company for the first time ever in their career, and it looks like WWE is set to continue its influx of talent this year with more signings, some that could include some very notable WWE legends returning to the company that indeed made them famous. Here are 5 names that could be on their way back to WWE to rejuvenate their legendary status later on in 2025. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we start today's countdown video, be sure to subscribe. As you can see right there with the live subscriber number counter, we are less than 300, just over 200 subscribers away from 21,000. The WNU, that being the Wrestling News universe, is always expanding. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Click that notification bell. You'll be notified every time a new video gets uploaded or we go live. There are daily news videos, there are countdown videos like this, there are watch-alongs coming up. All of the details you can see in the sidebar right there. Of course, it is WrestleMania week at the time recording this video. That means we're going to be live with watch-alongs for WrestleMania Saturday, Sunday, NXT Stand and Deliver, the Raw and SmackDowns before WrestleMania, the Raw after WrestleMania, and everything else in between. So be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell, you'll be notified when indeed we go live. In addition to that, you can join the WN365 roster. Just click the join button, the link's in the video description, or you can scan the QR code right there. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. Right into today's countdown video, and let's talk about some WWE legends that could be set to return to the company later this year or early next year. As I mentioned in the intro for this, it's been a busy year for WWE, signing up new talent or returning talent, new talent in the form of the likes of Pentagon Jr. or just Penta, Rey Fenix, other names that are returning to WWE for the first time in quite some time, whether it be Aleister Black, whether it be Rusev, and others like WWE Hall of Famer Goldberg set to have his retirement match later on this year. So it's led to naturally a lot of speculation. Could we see more WWE legends set to return to the company that made them famous? Let's get into 5 names that could be set to return to WWE, 5 legends specifically, and begin with WWE Hall of Famer good old JR Jim Ross. Now, of course, Jim Ross, as of the time recording this video, he is under contract with AEW. He was one of the first names signed to the company when it was founded back in 2019, and he was a major signing at the time. He had been kind of shelved by WWE for quite some time, occasionally doing commentary for big matches, WrestleMania main events, or occasional episodes of Raw and SmackDown when he was needed. But he felt that despite his age, he still had more to offer, and he felt like he had one more full-time run left in him. Because of this, he was signed by Tony Khan once his WWE contract expired, and he was the voice of AEW in its early days, giving the product an air of legitimacy with this well-known voice that many people knew from the 1990s, the Attitude Era, some of the golden days of professional wrestling, certainly the voice of their childhood. Now, of course, Jim Ross at that time was still older, and he wasn't the JR that he was during his peak, let's say, in the Attitude Era, but still, he had legitimacy. Now, over time, over the last several years, Jim Ross, unfortunately, as going with his age, because, of course, as I mentioned, he is in his 70s at this point. Specifically, Jim Ross is 73 years old, turned 73 this year. He's had some health issues, notably he's had skin cancer issues and hip issues and other health issues the last few years. So because of that, he's taken a step back from full-time broadcasting in All Elite Wrestling. And now, as part of his contract, every year he signs a 1-year contract with Tony Khan's promotion. And this means that he comes in and does big matches at pay-per-views. Doesn't even call the whole pay-per-view, will largely call main events, maybe the opening match, a significant match during the show. Or if there's a significant match happening on Dynamite or Collision, that's a really marquee match, then maybe he'll come in for that one. So you see him maybe 4, 5, 10 events maybe max per year, and that's what happens. Now, as far as his current AEW contract, it's set to expire in August of 2025, so not that long away at the time of recording this video. Now, he has stated several times that he expects to re-sign with Tony Khan. He feels healthy and feels capable of continuing his current AEW schedule for years to come. He signed his last contract, as I mentioned, a one-year deal with AEW in early 2024, but he does go year to year. Now, it's really up to Jim Ross on this one, I suppose, isn't it? Jim Ross, he can kind of do what he wants. I mean, he's a WWE Hall of Famer. He's arguably the greatest professional wrestling broadcaster, commentator of all time. And as I mentioned, he has provided the music or the lyrics, whatever you want to say, to some of the most memorable professional wrestling moments in history, particularly during the Attitude Era and particularly during the 1990s during his time on commentary. Even before that, whether it was for Mid-South or WCW or whatever promotion he was working in. But given the fact that, Vince McMahon is now no longer in charge of WWE, and Vince McMahon, whilst he was a longtime friend of Jim Ross, maybe had an issue with the way he sounded, the way he looked, his age. Triple H, he is, of course, now in charge of creative for WWE, and he is longtime friends with Jim Ross. And maybe before Jim Ross decides to call it a day when it comes to his career, if he ever indeed does, maybe he'll want to come back to WWE to call at least one final match or one final WrestleMania outing instead of just kind of drifting off into the distance. So whilst this one may be unlikely, you just feel like before all is said and done and JR finally decides to hang up his hat and hang up his headphones, then maybe he might come back to WWE just one more time to call a big WWE match. When will that be? We'll have to wait and see if it does ever happen, but I don't think it's one you can completely rule out, particularly considering his contract is coming up in just a few months' time. Now, Saraya has been constantly linked with a move back to WWE in the last few weeks, and the reason is why, because she's no longer under contract to AEW. Now, Saraya Page, of course, she was forced to retire back in 2017-2018. She'd suffered a neck injury. She'd been dealing with neck injuries for quite some time, and despite being at a very young age, it was reported and announced that she would no longer be medically cleared to compete. Now, after then, she became general manager of SmackDown. She was a manager for the Kabuki Warriors, but it felt like she was always just kind of there. She did some broadcasting stuff too, and in June of 2022, Paige announced her departure from WWE. It was effective on the 7th of July when her contract would expire. It ended nearly an 11-year tenure with the company, and around that period of time, June, July 2022, of course, that's when the Vince McMahon hush money scandal was starting to happen, the first retirement of McMahon, Triple H getting creative control of the company, and it was just a few months later in September of 2022 that Saraya made her debut for AEW at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite in Arthur Ashe Stadium. Now, during that period of time, she did reveal that after she was released, Triple H did actually call her and say, hey, do you want to come back to WWE? At the time, they were bringing several people back, whether it be Karrion Kross, Hit Row, Bray Wyatt, Johnny Gargano. The list goes on and on of names that had been released that Triple H was bringing back if they weren't already under contract elsewhere. Now, she did reveal, as I mentioned, that Triple H had said to her, look, we'll try and look at your neck and we'll try and work to a point where you can get back to wrestle. Ultimately, she decided to sign for AEW. She wanted to do more outside projects. She wanted to have a bit more flexibility. Signed with AEW. Eventually, she was cleared to wrestle once again. And in Full Gear in November of 2022 at Full Gear, she wrestled Britt Baker and had her first match in several years. Now, after that, you could say that maybe her run in AEW wasn't the success that many people thought it would be. There were still after effects of her neck injury, and certainly she wrestled a slower style and just wasn't the Saraya that maybe people remembered her as being in WWE as Paige. She did win the AEW Women's World Championship at All In 2023 in her home country of England, which was a high point for her, but again, she just never really got going. She was part of the Outcast, and she would go long periods of time of not wrestling because of her neck, and it was just a kind of difficult run for her, really. Now, her final match for AEW was in October of 2024 on the Title Tuesday edition of Dynamite. She was in a four-way match. She didn't win it. It ended up being Saraya's final appearance in AEW in November of 2024. She announced she was taking a hiatus from wrestling to focus on other projects, and in March of 2025 this year, she announced her departure from AEW, ending in a 3-year run in the company. And since then, there have been rumors and links suggesting she could go back to WWE. Saraya's actually been quite open, talking about how she could be interested to return to WWE one day. She has suggested that she'll take the rest of this year off to focus on outside projects, like she's got a podcast that she's just launched, etc. But you do think that she probably will end up going back to WWE into the women's division. Maybe it's not the women's division that she was used to while she was there, but she certainly, because of her name power, could participate in that. And who knows what her health is like with her neck injury, so maybe she only has a couple of matches left in her career. But if she does want to have a couple more matches, then certainly you feel like they most likely would be in WWE, where she can finish her career on her own terms instead of how her previous WWE career ended, which was being told you can't wrestle anymore and then eventually being released. Now let's move on to Billy Gunn, because this one is a really fascinating one, because of course Billy Gunn, he's got so much history with WWE, member of D-Generation X, or a member of the New Age Outlaws. In addition to that, of course, he's Mr. Ass, and he had a long time with WWE, the Smoking Guns initially, but he's been someone that's been with AEW since the beginning. In addition to that, his sons, Austin and Colton, they work for AEW too. He's been a coach behind the scenes, he's been a wrestler, and despite being in his 60s, yes, that man's in his 60s, he is still in unbelievable shape and still a very, very good worker, and it looks like he hasn't aged. Now, when it comes to all of this, it is a bit more complicated, because Billy Gunn, he came back to WWE in around sort of 2011, 2012, and he was a coach at the WWE Performance Center for NXT, training the next wave of WWE superstars. Eventually, he did get released by WWE, and there was some, shall we say, controversy regarding his exit from WWE previously, and it all had to do with him competing in powerlifting outside of WWE. Yes, again, a very, very strange situation, to say the least. Basically, what happened was he was training and actually, again, assisting with WWE and the talent at the Performance Center, but in November of 2015, WWE officially announced that Billy Gunn was released from his WWE contract. He failed a test for performance-enhancing drugs. He tested positive for elevated levels of testosterone at a powerlifting event on July 25th, 2015, and was suspended from powerlifting for 4 years. Now, he did actually make occasional appearances for WWE since then. For instance, he was on the Raw 25 episode from the Manhattan Center. He was also inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2019 as a member of D-Generation X, but never officially came back, and eventually he signed with AEW and became a popular member of the TV show with The Acclaimed. Of course, eventually they've split up. Recently, he's the manager for Anthony Bowens after The Acclaimed split up. But the reason really this one's gone into overdrive is because it was revealed that Billy Gunn is a part of the WWE latest 2K video game as part of DLC content. Many people wondered how this was even possible, and the reason is because there are a couple of AEW talents that have separate deals with WWE and with AEW. They have an AEW talent contract, but they also have a WWE merchandising contract or a licensing agreement where they can be used on merchandise or they can be used in video games and things of that nature. It's the same for WWE Hall of Famer Jake the Snake Roberts. So others have suggested, with Triple H being as powerful as he's ever been in WWE right now, the chief content officer of the company, and many of Triple H's former partners, friends working for the company, whether it be Shawn Michaels, whether it be whoever it may be, Road Dogg, of course, was Billy Gunn's tag team partner. Road Dogg's actually the co-lead writer of SmackDown at the time recording this video. Many have thought, well, maybe if Billy Gunn wants to go back to WWE, he could. Again, it's complicated. His sons work for AEW and he still wrestles. He wouldn't be wrestling for WWE, and who knows if there would still be issues like how he left in 2015 when it comes to powerlifting, testosterone, and, shall we say, other curricular activities. It's a bit more complex, that one. It certainly isn't it? But I don't think it can be ruled out because there is still an active working relationship between Daddy Ass and between WWE. Now, the Hardys. Now, this one feels inevitable, doesn't it? The Hardys, as of right now, are under contract to TNA Wrestling. It was announced at the beginning of this year. They'd signed a 1-year deal with Total Nonstop Action, and they were under contract until the end of the year. Currently, they're the TNA World Tag Team Champions, but already they've made appearances for WWE. This is because of the working relationship, the multi-year partnership between WWE and TNA announced earlier this year. Now, TNA and WWE had been working together for at least a year anyway, seeing the likes of Jordan Grace, Joe Hendry, and others crossing over onto NXT specifically, but it was made official earlier this year, and it's really gone into overdrive, specifically on NXT, that we've seen all of these TNA talents appear on the show and NXT talents appear on TNA. This includes the Hardys. Whilst under contract to TNA, the Hardy Boys made a return appearance to WWE earlier this year on the February 25th, 2025 episode of NXT. At the NXT Roadblock special on March 11th, the Hardy Boys successfully defended their TNA World Tag Team Championships against NXT Tag Team Champions Nathan Frazer and Fraxium. And since then, Matt Hardy has been very, very coy, suggesting that they have got more planned with WWE in the future. Stop short of saying exactly what that is, whether that's going into the Hall of Fame, whether that's appearing in WWE video games, whether that's digital stuff, which they have appeared on WWE's YouTube channel since then, or actually full-fledged appearances, possibly at WrestleMania, possibly at future PLEs, possibly on Raw or SmackDown, or future episodes of NXT. We'll just have to wait and see. But you do feel like, considering that both Matt and Jeff Hardy exited WWE under somewhat difficult circumstances, particularly Jeff, and particularly because this feels like it really truly is the last big run of their professional wrestling careers as a tag team. You feel like they'll eventually go back home to the place indeed that made them famous at the beginning stages of their career, and that is WWE, and have one final run in the company, particularly when they've got vocal advocates of them like Michael Hayes in senior positions backstage as a producer and on the creative team. It's inevitable that the Hardys certainly will end up back in WWE after being in pretty much every single pro wrestling company you can possibly think of. And finally, another WWE legend that could be set to return to the company, Chris Jericho. This is a really interesting one because previously you would have said absolutely no way. Jericho has been with AEW since day one, but things have changed when it comes to Chris Jericho. Not certainly his standing in AEW, but certainly his career. Now, Jericho in 2022, towards the end of the year, it was announced he'd signed a 3-year deal with AEW. A new contract. It was the biggest contract of his pro wrestling career from a monetary point of view, he had said. And in 2025, his contract with AEW is set to expire. Now, Jericho's 54 years old, and he certainly is not the Chris Jericho that he was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And this has been part of a problem in AEW. Initially, when he came in and he signed with AEW in 2019, it was a big deal. Jericho, since the 1990s, hadn't been signed to another North American pro wrestling company after signing with WWE, going from WCW. He had said that he would never sign with another pro wrestling company outside of North America. Despite matches with New Japan, he said he wasn't going to do it. But after feeling wronged by WWE and Vince McMahon and feel like he'd reached a certain point there and he was never going to be considered the guy, and he was disrespected after his run with Kevin Owens, that he thought was some of the best, some of the best work of his career, and he ended up going on second match at WrestleMania, and he was disappointed. He was angry with that. He felt, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to try and help with this new company. Jericho added legitimacy to the company. It really, really helped knowing that Chris Jericho was the first ever world champion for All Elite Wrestling when they were getting their deal with Warner Brothers Discovery to be on TNT on TBS. He added that weight of legitimacy, and in the first few months, he really carried the company on his shoulders and did well doing it. Fast forward all the way to 2025, and it feels like Jericho now has become a parody of himself. He gets chants of please retire. They're legitimate. A lot of the stuff he does gets routinely criticized. He looks a shell of himself inside the squared circle, and many are suggesting it maybe is time for Jericho to really consider hanging it up for good. If that is the case, then maybe Jericho needs to do what he was doing towards the end of his WWE run, which is one final run in WWE. Doesn't have to be long, 3 months, 6 months, and then he can go away. One last reinvention. We've seen Jericho try to reinvent himself so many times throughout his career, and he's done it successfully. The Millennium Man, the best in the world. In addition to that, the Undisputed Champion, the Light Up Jacket guy. Of course, when it comes to the Best Friend, the list of Jericho, when it comes to AEW, Le Champion, a little bit of the bubbly, the Jericho Appreciation Society, the Inner Circle, the Learning Tree. He's done it over and over again. Some are better than others, but maybe he needs to go back to WWE one last time and just have that run, enter the Hall of Fame, and then end his career before it's too late, really. And despite Jericho not being what he used to be, you do feel like he still can contribute. We do see that in AEW, but maybe the time has kind of passed him in AEW, and he's done everything there that he needs to do, and he needs to have one final run in WWE on the biggest stage possible, because what he's at a danger of right now is people just remembering 2025 Chris Jericho, not remembering Chris Jericho in the 2000s, in the 90s, who was legitimately one of, if not the best wrestler on the planet when it comes to promos, when it comes to in-ring action, and he's kind of lost all of that, and people just remember the parody right now. So maybe he needs to go back and right that wrong, if you will. So there you go, guys. Those are 5 names, 5 WWE legends that could be set to return either this year or later next year to World Wrestling Entertainment. What do you think of some of those names? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I off? Let me know your hot takes. Let me know which ones you agree with, you disagree with in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. As you can see right there, we are just over that being 200 away from 21,000 subscribers, which is incredible. Also a reminder, check out the sidebar for all upcoming watch-alongs. We've got Raw, SmackDowns, WrestleManias, NXT Stand and Deliver, and you can scan the QR code when it appears or click the link in the video description below or the join button, and you can join the WN365 roster. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.